of digital natives and the notion of design or redesign. That seemed extremely interesting to me, and also because the location was of extreme interest, even if this time it's a little bit virtual again. So my title, I came up with the title of Blended Learning Flipped Classrooms, 21st Century Skills and Digital Natives and Other Trojan Horses in Education. But what do I mean by Trojan horse? You all know the definition from the dictionary as a person or thing intended to undermine or secretly overthrow an enemy or an opponent. Now, I'm using this term here as the use of an apparently innocuous word that carries a hidden effect. And this is what I like to talk about today, is about the use of certain terminology in our educational world. So first, a little disclaimer. In no event shall this presenter be held liable for any damages, direct or indirect, mental or physical, arising out of any decision or action taken on the basis of the information provided or arising out of attending this presentation. It's about the dangers of using ill-defined and possibly persuasive terms such as blended learning, flipped classrooms, 21st century skills, and digital natives. The presenter is aware that one or more participants at this conference may have used one or more of these terms recently. This presenter is convinced that they have done so unwittingly and with the best possible intentions. Therefore, he forgives them and encourages them to accurately define these terms before using them again. So, this said, let's move on. My starting point is, if someone asks you, how is your house or apartment, then you might use words like cozy, stylish, sustainable, carbon neutral, authentic, smart, electric, means low energy, strangely enough, roomy, sunny, or wooden. But would you ever say that your house is electrified or that you have a house with running water? There's a big difference. If you would say your house is electrified and with running water, that would mean that that's not the normal situation in your region, that you're very lucky and fortunate to have a house with electricity and running water. If no, you would think that electricity and running water is the most normal thing in the world, and that's an essential part of your house. That's the difference. Let's first have a look at the term the discussions all started with, is the term virtual exchanges. Now, what does virtual mean? Virtual means almost real, not physically existing as such, but made by software to appear to do so. That is the definition of virtual. But the strange thing is that when we talk about virtual exchanges, that the digital exchanges, electronic exchanges between classrooms afford more activities than the physical classroom exchanges. And so this is strange. They use the word virtual, where virtual means a little bit less than real. While in fact, it offers many more activities. So why would we call these exchanges virtual? Is that due to the magical effect implied by the term? And why don't we use words like augmented exchanges? That would be a nice word to have. Digital, simply digital exchanges, or simply the old word telecollaboration. I have written an editorial position paper on this discussion, and Robert O'Dowd reacted in another editorial on this topic. Now let's have a closer look at blended learning. What does that mean? Well, to blend is to mix a substance with another substance so that they combine together. We all know that. And the dictionary defines blended learning as a style of education in which students learn via electronic and online media, as well as traditional face-to-face teaching. Okay. But we have another problem. In literature, they always talk about this seamless integration of technology in the learning environment. And they all assume that there is a learning effect. first of all, I'm not very sure about that. And secondly, they never talk about the way they should do that. They talk about the integration more on the product level than on the process level. I'm also constantly wondering why integrate something if something else when it is an integral part of it. So the fact that you need to integrate something new in something old reflects an obsolete vision on educational design. While remember the house metaphor, if you build a house, you automatically not integrate, but you see that electricity and running water is an essential part of that house. So the way I see it is technology is normal. It's a normal, essential part of a learning environment. You do not need to integrate it. And that's my problem with the word blended. It also reflects a binary world. It's too binary. They just talk about face-to-face versus digital. Well, in my model, there are a number of modalities in between. This is why I talk about multimodal learning environments. And it's not about technology. It's about synchronous versus asynchronous activities, remote versus face-to-face, individual versus collaborative, in cohort or not. So you have so many parameters involved. And secondly, or finally, the strange thing is that we use the word blended learning or blended only in combination with learning or with, but why don't we talk about blended education, blended holiday, blended cooking, a blended house, blended banking? No, we do not use that word, only with learning. That's my problem. Another term is flipped classrooms, okay? What does that mean? According to the dictionary, flipped classrooms are a type of blended learning where students are introduced to content at home and practice working through it at school. I'm not very sure about that definition. In a broader sense, events that have traditionally taken place inside the classroom now take place outside the classroom and vice versa. Again, I have problems with that because simply to flip something means to turn it over. It's that this is flipping, to turn over or to move, push, or throw something with a sudden quick movement. We flip hamburgers. We do not flip classrooms. It's not about flipping. It's about swapping, switching, or inverting. Now, we do not need to flip any activities if they have their justifiable place and role in the learning environment. Like there is a place and a role for drill and practice, could be in the classroom, could be outside of the classroom. It all depends on the design of your learning environment. But saying that introduction to content should happen at home and practice inside the classroom, I think that is largely exaggerated. There is another problem, that's the planning problem for students. If we ask them to prepare every lesson with content introduction by watching knowledge clips or anything else, then we suppose that students will have the time and be able to do their planning while preparing their lesson, and that's not the case. Also very strange is that blended learning or flipped classrooms always talk about what happens before and less frequently about what should happen after the classroom. Now, the strange thing is that we did all that in the 80s already. We had drill and practice interactive courseware in the 80s that was used at home. And we saw that as a means to let the teacher have more time for interesting activities instead of just boring drill and practice. But we thought that was just such a normal situation that we did not need to coin a specific term for that. What about 21st century skills? Well, 21st century skills comprise skills, abilities, and learning dispositions required for success in a rapidly changing digital society of the 21st century. That's beautiful. But I'm wondering, which skills did I need in the 20th century? I'm already a little bit older. So which skills did I need in the previous century, which I do not need anymore? Or which skills do I need now that I did not need in the previous century? I have no idea. There was perhaps not enough focus on some higher order skills in the 80s and 90s. So, but why do they use the term century? Why not simply say it's now a digital society, or just say, listen, this fits within this rat race image of our society. Or why not simply talk about in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, Bloom's digital taxonomy, and name them. What are these skills? So I have problems with, I agree with the higher order skills, although what I see is that many people would like to give these higher order skills to the computer and the lower order skills to the teacher. Why I think that we should give these lower order skills to the computer and the higher order skills to the teacher. Now, there's one skill that I think was really typically 20th century, that was competition, which I hope in this century will be less important. Now, digital natives is in the title of this conference. And of course, we all know what we mean by that. It's a very important phenomenon. Prensky in 2001 said, our students have changed radically. Today's students are no longer the people our educational system was designed to teach. Right, this is correct. But in literature, there has been a huge debate. And people started using the term for assuming that young people had different brains and that we should change our pedagogy accordingly. Now, also strange is that discussion ended a little bit, but some people are still using terms like that. Well, my reaction is yes, we all know nerds, gamers, geeks, hackers, tech-savvy millennials. They do have special interests, skills, and goals, but do they really have special brains? What some people really believe. Well, most students know the basics of apps and games, but they do not know enough about the dangers of social media, nor about the advanced features of Word, Teams, or Twitter. Now, what's the foundation and use of terms such as Generation X, Y, Z, and Alpha, Millennials, Boomers, and Digital Divide? Do they belong in a scholarly scientific discourse? I do not think so. Yes, we always need to adapt to our learners. We always need to redesign our education accordingly, but they do not have different brains that would require us to change our pedagogy fundamentally. Now, there are other terms such as deep learning, big data, serious games, artificial intelligence. So, well, all these terms are used by people with the best possible intentions, but they should be aware that these terms may carry a hidden meaning or targeted effect. That's what I mean by Trojan horse. For instance, artificial intelligence routines have not changed much since the 80s. But data, the routines, I know that because I have been programming for more than 20 years. But what makes artificial systems so powerful is data nowadays. The algorithms have not changed much. Okay, we all know neural networks and so on, but the power from what they call artificial systems comes from the data. Now, my boutade this time is again, as long as apps are unable to prepare my perfect romantic weekend, as long as apps are unable to prepare my lessons, there is no artificial intelligence. What we have is smart systems. Robots might seem very impressive. They dance, they play soccer. But in my view, it's rather easy to imagine the software behind it. But I'm still waiting for the app that prepares my romantic weekend. Where will I go with my wife and what shall we do? And that is not really available for the moment. So what I've written before is we should switch from all these terms have something to do with product features, and that we should pay more attention to the process behind it. These terms have probably been coined to name new and largely unknown phenomena, but very few remember their originally intended meanings, and many use these terms with different connotations in mind. Persuasive terms convey a mostly ungrounded reason for using technology. They put pressure on teachers to use technology without explaining why in terms of a clear rationale or of substantiated evidence. So these terms are, in my view, ill-defined. They represent specific, sometimes questionable views on education. They put pressure on teachers. They refer to product qualities. And my point today is that the targeted learning effect, everything that we all want by using technology, by creating beautiful learning environments, what we want is to create a learning effect. But in my view, and that is my research, that this targeted learning effect depends more on the process behind it than on product features. Learning effect is not proportional to the number of boxes that you tick as features. It's all about the reasoning behind your design. And well, I've been thinking about this all my life, and I've come to the following conclusion that design has three dimensions. I'm working on this for the moment. That first of all, design is about application of theory, application of what is known, application of models, theories, knowledge, both about the product and about the design process itself. Design is also about adaptation to local context. Even if we know, we apply what we know, like self-determination theory is an example, we can apply that theory to the design of our learning environment. But we have to go a step further after that. We need to adapt to local context. We need to adapt to individual learners. We need to adapt, we need to differentiate, like Universal Design for Learning tries to integrate all different types of learners. We need to adapt to the context of the learner, etc. And in a third stage, design is about approximation. That means that the perfect learning environment cannot be created in one step. It's a question of a cyclic iteration, step by step, approximating kind of an optimal learning environment that we want to create. One day I came up with this definition. I encountered this definition by Billy Van Quem about engineering. He said, by engineering method, I mean the strategy for causing the best change in a poorly understood or uncertain situation within the available resources. And I thought, well, this is a very interesting, exciting definition of engineering. Engineering is not specifically about technology. It's a strategy when you do not know. Like Piaget said in French, l'intelligence n'est pas ce qu'on fait, mais ce qu'on fait quand on ne sait pas. And intelligence is not what you're doing, it's what you do when you do not know. Oh, this is interesting. So if engineering is the strategy to apply when you do not know, then if we apply that to education, then you can develop this model of educational engineering when with an iterative cyclic instructional design model with phases, stages, and real-world loops. That means that you can only go step by step. You have an existing real-world learning environment. You try to change it year by year, but at the same time, evaluate it as you go along. Every teacher could become an engineer, meaning that it puts less pressure on the teachers if you tell them, listen, the perfect lesson preparation does not exist. You can only spend a number of hours on your lesson preparation and then keep it for next time. Just try to do something, okay? I'm going to watch a little bit the questions at this stage. Okay. Okay, I'm going to answer that question in a moment. What my point is that every teacher should become an educational engineer by looking at his or her learning environment as a hypothesis, as something in progress. And every researcher, as a teacher, should formulate his or her own hypothesis, research hypothesis. What happens if I give my students more autonomy? What happens if I build more relatedness among my students? In my case, I have formulated 4 paradigm shifts. That means a paradigm shift is a hypothesis that turns around certain things. That means that in the ecological paradigm shift states that no technology carries an inherent, measurable, and generalizable effect on learning. This targeted effect can only come from the learning environment as an ecology. So this is what too many people still are looking for in their research. They integrate technology in a blended approach and try to measure some effect. It doesn't make any sense because that effect only can come from the entire learning environment as a whole. The process-oriented paradigm shift states that the eventual learning effect of the learning environment is proportional to the designedness of the learning environment. That means that it has something to do with the process. It's the quality of your design process. It's not a product, because the product will be different according to, in every situation and every context. The product, a good learning environment, will depend on your goals, on your personality as a teacher, on the context of your students, on the available resources. So the product should be different every time. It's only about the process. We should really stop talking about product features when we talk about learning environments. The demand paradigm shift states that the methodological design process creates demand for specific technologies. So it's not about integrating technologies, it's about designing a learning environment like you design a house, and then you will know whether or not you need an elevator, a swimming pool, everything. The design creates the demand for specific things. And last but not least, the psychological paradigm shift. I've written an article about that the focus on personal goals is a more efficient way to realize pedagogical goals. Those are examples of research questions, paradigm shift, things that you can turn around in your design of the learning environment, where it's not about flipping, about digital natives, about blending. It's about designing for your context. And we should all try to work together on the process. And this is what I'm trying to do. And I focus on conceptualization as a stage and design. That means that what I've seen over the years is that the best possible pedagogy can fail if personal goals are not being respected first. So I focus on eliciting personal goals as design concepts: autonomy, competence, relatedness, support, identity, etc. And I try to identify conflicts between personal goals and pedagogical goals. So my conclusion is, it's not about pedagogy. Not really, because we have good pedagogies, we have good didactic methods. But what is missing is that the effectiveness of this pedagogy can fail if we spend not enough time and energy on that psychological thing. Okay, then we have specification and another step as another phase in my design model. I will skip that for the moment. So my conclusion is, don't flip or blend, but design your learning environment in a methodological way. Let's all do this together. Let's all focus on the process, because if we apply the same process in our context, in our situation, we will all arrive at different products. And this is beautiful. First psychology, then pedagogy, then technology. We should focus also, we should work together on a more accurate terminology. It's not, I'm not against blended, I'm not against flipping, but it's about accurately defining those terms, and we should work together on that. It's strange that terms like hybrid are much better defined. Hybrid is teaching face-to-face in a classroom and remotely at the same time. And this is such a beautiful, clear, well-defined concept. Online, digital, remote, ubiquitous, mobile, distance. These terms are well-defined. So this is strange why blended, virtual, flipped 21st century are not well-defined. So we can work together. Every time you use the term, don't be afraid to use them, but define them in a substantiated way. I've written some aspects of this in my editorial position paper, How Virtual is Your Research? And if all goes well, we will organize our next CAL conference, Computer Assisted Language Learning, in Tokyo. But with the current situation, fingers crossed, we will see what happens. All right. If you want this presentation, the PowerPoint of this presentation, I'm willing to send it to you. Just send me an email. I'm now going to answer that. Thank you. How can I make sure my students arrive at class ready to work, and how do I hold students accountable? This is an interesting question. It all depends on your students. But it's not, if you just say we have face-to-face sessions and you expect them to prepare that, they should be prepared, but it's quite difficult for them. That's another burden on what they have to do. My students hate that. It makes their planning, certainly at the master level, far too complex. So we should be very careful. I think we should do that. What you do with exaggerate and flipped classroom approach, where you exaggerate with the amount of work that you give to the students, that turns out to be very negative. I would do that, to answer your question, with very little amounts of knowledge, with knowledge bubbles, something to start with, so that they come focused in the classroom. Coming to the previous question, do you think using the flipped classroom technique would be challenging considering policing student accountability? Yes, what I said about that is exactly that this accountability, it all depends on the type of students. If you have motivated students like my master's students, that's not really a problem. But if you talk about secondary education, and if you talk about something that they do not like to study, like French in our case, most students are not very motivated to learn French, then the flipped classroom approach would not work at all. So what I say, it all depends on the learning environment. It all depends on your process. It could be that you need to flip, and it would be very flip, or better switch activities inside, outside, pre, post classroom. But the eventual choice should be the result of a thinking process, and not saying you should absolutely do something before the classroom. I think that activities after classroom are maybe as important as the rest. So I guess time is up. So I give the mic back to the moderator.
Thank you very much for your excellent presentation, Professor Colbert. Now, I think that Joseph Colbert, you have the higher energy and transfer to us. And I think that everybody now has energy, and we can continue our sixth season. This is sixth season, and presenter is Associate Professor Dr. Salim Razi. Today's season is being recorded to be available for viewing the post-conference. If you have a question for presenters, please ask to chat feature in this Zoom webinar. Each presenter today will have the totally 30 minutes for their presentation. Now our second presenter, Associate Professor Salim Razi. Salim Razi is an Associate Professor and Director of Center for Academic Integrity at the Çanakkale 18 Mart University, Turkey. He is a founder board member of the European Network for Academic Integrity. He developed the transparent academic writing rubric and recently focused on preventing plagiarism through an anonymous multimedia writing model, for which he was awarded the Turnitin Global Innovation Award. It was also listed as a good practice by the Australian Government Charity Education Quality and Standard Agency. He is the convener of the 40 Plagiarism Across Europe and Beyond Conference, and one of the editors of the book entitled Towards Consistency and Transparency in Academic Integrity. He will talk about building a culture of the academic integrity. Now, let's please welcome our second presenter, Associate Professor Dr. Salim Razi.
Thank you, Ömer Hocam, for the introduction, and thank you, Joseph, for the lovely presentation. While I was listening to you, I double-checked whether I misuse any of the terms in my presentation. So it seems I'm safe for now, but we will see throughout the presentation. Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen, please. Just a second. Okay, hope you can see the presentation. Now, as you can see in the title, today I'll talk about building a culture of academic integrity. Indeed, when we talk about academic integrity, there might be some misinterpretations of the term. mainly focusing on the sanctions and mainly focusing on academic misconduct. So indeed, today I'd like to show you what we really mean by means of academic integrity. Here, when we move to our outline today, I plan to start by the definition of academic integrity and then relating this definition with the fundamental values of academic integrity. And then I'd like to relate what we mean by academic integrity policies and how these policies may help us to develop a culture of academic integrity. Of course, when we relate these two, we need to understand the core elements involved in academic integrity policies. And in order to make all these policies and core elements meaningful, we need to have some approaches to the development of academic integrity policies. Unavoidably, in these policies, we need to involve some space relating to academic misconduct and also relating sanctions. And with regards to our interest, our professional interests, I'd like to specifically relate our discussion today with reference to teaching, learning, and research specifically. Okay, then let's try to identify what we mean by academic integrity. I'll be benefiting from the definition that's coming from the European Network for Academic Integrity, which we established in 2017. And we have a glossary of related terminology definitions there. And we are identifying academic integrity as compliance with ethical and professional principles, standards, practices, and consistent system of values that serves as guidance for making decisions and taking actions in education, research, scholarship. So we are referring to education, research, scholarship from three dimensions. Indeed, all these three are closely related to the facilities of any universities or any schools. And here, as you see in the definition, we are referring to some principles. Then, what are these principles? What do we mean? What do we mean by these principles? I'd like to illustrate these principles with reference to International Center for Academic Integrity when Teddy Fishman published these 6 fundamental values of academic integrity there. Indeed, initially there were 5 of these values, which were trust, fairness, respect, responsibility, and honesty. And later, in 2014, the 6th one, courage, was added. And on the right hand, you see the logo of our center. When we were designing our logo, I wanted to benefit from these principles, fundamental values of academic integrity. You see the building, indeed, it represents the universal shape of university, and the columns that you see, they are reflecting trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. And the roof is reflecting honesty, because to our understanding, honesty seems to be a value which is combining all the other values. And when it comes to courage, courage is necessary in order to fulfill maintain all the other fundamental values. Therefore, we need stairs to go into the building, which we recognize as courage here. So when we refer to academic integrity, indeed, we are referring to these fundamental values. At the beginning, when we refer to the term academic integrity, it may not seem that complicated, but when we start studying it, it becomes a bit complicated. This is what Tracy Bratack indicated in 2016. It may become complicated because of the involvement of stakeholders, because it requires a collaboration from different stakeholders, indeed from all stakeholders, and considering the globalization of education, we need to cooperate at a global level. Here, indeed, the main aim of this presentation is helping us understand how we can build a culture of academic integrity at our institutions. However, as I said previously, this requires collaboration and also benefiting from policies. We need to be careful here. The fundamental values of academic integrity, these are essential for any educational activity. Therefore, any type of educational operation should follow these principles. Otherwise, it means that we are doing something wrongly. If we manage to build academic integrity culture, then what happens? This will increase the quality of education because of the involvement of an atmosphere of trust at the institutional level. And when we do this, then it means that we will be bringing honest individuals to the society. Although we are specifically dealing with education, within an educational context, it is important to note that when our students graduate, they go into society. So it is quite important to bring honest individuals to the society in order to prevent corruption or some other misconducts. However, this will require quite a lot interaction and cooperation with all stakeholders. What do we mean by an academic integrity policy? When we refer to an academic integrity policy, indeed, we try to understand a logical framework which may help us to maintain our educational activities or the other related activities in an acceptable manner by following the principles of academic integrity. And there are different approaches to develop academic integrity policies. And I'd like to provide some samples, some excerpts from these policies here. And mainly, we are referring to multi-stakeholder approach that's coming from Tracy Bretak. This is a holistic approach, which also benefits from a proactive methodology. And these policies will be providing some logical framework for us, indicating the responsibilities of different people involved in education. And also, in the case of having an academic misconduct, these policies standardize and the issues, the sanctions for us. Of course, we are trying to focus on a more positive aspect here with reference to academic integrity, but we again need to talk about academic misconduct and sanctions. If we are doing our best as the institution and if we are collaborating in a very well manner as different stakeholders, but again, if we receive if we come across any type of academic misconduct, then it means that we may need to refer to sanctions. And these sanctions, all these sanctions should be clearly identified how to be followed in the case of academic misconduct. These are also important elements of academic integrity policies. However, recently academic integrity policies are aiming at preventing academic misconduct before they occur. So this is an important aspect that I will refer to. Here we have some issues to be considered before we move forward. Here I said that recently policies are trying to prevent any type of academic misconduct before they occur. But what about the past? Indeed, academic integrity policies are so popular, especially in the last 3 decades. and we see that the initial policies mainly focus on or mainly follow detective or reactive approaches. And what do I mean by detective and reactive approaches here? Suppose, for example, if as an institution or as a teacher, you simply focus on detecting plagiarism, then it means that you are following a detective approach. Or if you simply focus on, after detecting the academic misconduct, if you focus on how to react, I mean how to deliver the sanctions or which sanctions to deliver, then it means that your policy is reflecting from a reactive manner. Of course, detection and reaction should be covered in the policies. However, when it comes to proactive policies, preventive policies, or in other words, the aim is preventing academic misconduct. Indeed, more than preventing academic misconduct, the aim is building a culture of academic integrity. So if we manage to build this culture at an institutional level, then it means that automatically we will be able to prevent academic misconduct. Therefore, as you can imagine, developing an academic integrity policy, I mean, a well-developed policy, this requires quite a lot of attention. And if you are not experienced in developing such policies, then it should be better to contact with the others in terms of developing the policies. And under European Network for Academic Integrity, we there have a working group on academic integrity policies that I am leading. If you like, you can join us. It doesn't require membership. Anyone interested in academic integrity policy development may email me, and then we can consider your contribution to the group. And here I'd like to also mention a PhD project that my supervisor Özgür is maintaining here, and I shared the link here, and I will also share the link in the chat box. Just a second, please. Sorry. I will copy it and paste it at the end of the presentation, the link to you. Özgür, if you are here, you may share the links, please, including username and password. In this project, Özgür is trying to develop a policy tool. Indeed, he managed to develop the tool and produce the first policy for a school in Turkey. So what he did in this tool is collecting policies in a global manner from all around the world, and then identifying the issues that are taken into consideration in these policies. And then he developed a template with the help of the experts from European Network for Academic Integrity. And then now it is easy for anyone to develop an academic integrity policy for any institution by using this tool, because you will be benefiting from the excerpts, the sentences that are coming from the other institutions. And this tool will be guiding you step by step to produce your own tool. Of course, it will be providing citations to the other policies, since you will be benefiting from their tools. I'll move back to a sample from Özgür's policy later, but before I do this, I'd like to refer to 5 core elements of academic integrity policies. Indeed, here, Tracy Bretak once again is providing very useful guidelines for us, identifying what we need to take into consideration. The first thing she suggests is accessibility. So the policy should be accessible by anyone. If you do not make it known by our students, for example, then it means that we are not doing it right. Secondly, we need to follow an acceptable approach. That I said, for example, it could be preventive approach, proactive approach, anything where we benefit from education. And for the third one, responsibility, we need to identify the responsibilities of every stakeholder. Suppose, for example, in the previous example, I said that we might be focusing on detection of plagiarism. And if we simply accuse our students of plagiarism, then it means that, again, we are doing it in a wrong manner. Then, as a teacher, what is my responsibility? And as the administrators, what are their responsibilities? Do they do their best in order to encourage students to act with integrity and to prevent them from academic misconduct? So we need to identify the responsibilities of every stakeholder. And fourthly, she refers to the details. And of course, we need detailed information, detailed statements in the policies, but not excessive descriptions of breaches. Otherwise, it would be too complicated for the stakeholders to follow. And finally, she refers to the support. We need support. I will call your attention to the importance of collaboration with the others when we draw related conclusions. But here, Tracy is calling attention to the proactive approach here and the implementation of the policy by the integration of others. Considering all this, then what do we understand from a policy? What should it cover? Okay, when I see a well-developed policy, I need to identify responsibilities of stakeholders, integrity education, investigation protocols of suspected cases, academic misconduct cases, violations, sanctions, restorative justice, pedagogy, assessment design, training, and other aspects. Assuming that you may not be very familiar, for example, with restorative justice, I copied the related section from Özgür's ongoing study here, relating to restorative justice. Suppose, for example, you realize that one of your students are plagiarizing, and after the investigations, you decided that, and the committee decided that, yes, this is plagiarism. When we refer to restorative justice, we this time try to minimize the harm caused by the crime. I mean here, plagiarism. So it seems that the student has an intention not to repeat such an academic misconduct in the future. So what we try to do, we try to change this academic misconduct into academic integrity. So we are trying to educate students by giving them a second chance if necessary. Of course, restorative justice process should be clearly identified how the decision could be taken to help the student here. So you see the excerpt here. If you'd like to see the details, I share the link here. And if you like, we can share the link in the chat box as well. So far, as you see, indeed, we are moving from a punitive approach to educative approach. Rather than delivering the sanctions, we are trying to educate individuals so that they act with integrity at school and they become responsible individuals when they join in the society after their graduation. Here, I am this time referring to Tricia Bertram-Gallant, and she's also referring to positive approaches here. And she is calling our attention to the importance of being a model for our students. Suppose, for example, I'm a lecturer and I do not act with integrity. I'm writing academic papers, and when I'm writing academic papers, I plagiarize from the others. But when it comes to student assignments, I ask my students to act with integrity, not to plagiarize. So it means that it doesn't work. So before we ask anything from our students, we need to become a model. This is important. And we need to consider this at a second perspective from the curriculum development. Here, the assessment should be designed in order to facilitate and measure learning. So in our assignments, if we simply try to prevent cheating, then it means that we are doing it wrongly. Throughout the pandemic, I believe we misinterpreted this, and some people, in a way, some teachers, I mean, or institutions, try to stop teaching or assume they try to stop teaching by simply asking students for honor codes to declare that they do not cheat during the exam, which to my experience does not work. And here it is quite important that we need to find in-service teachers in addition to pre-service teachers in order to teach these issues, these approaches to them. Here, this time I am benefiting from a three-level model of intervention in terms of creating cultures of academic integrity. And here you see at the bottom, we have students, teachers, administrators, parents. These are all stakeholders, and we can have school-wide education to cover all them. And at the second level, we have only students and teachers. This time we are specifically focusing on context-specific prevention. And thirdly, we move to individual remediation stage, where students are alone in order to act with integrity. Indeed, for those who wish to establish academic integrity culture at their institutions, Stefan's model could be a good start. Here, for holistic approach, what do we try to do? We try to support stage to every stakeholder by benefiting from materials that are available campus-wide. Indeed, we are also giving some professional development training to the staff as well. And we try to show them, let's say, for example, when we talk about text matching software such as Turnitin, okay, what about the capability of our lecturers to use the tool in order to maximize or promote academic integrity? So such in-service trainings are essential in a holistic approach. Here, I am this time referring to McCabe. He is the founder of International Center for Academic Integrity, and he's referring to his own experience here, indeed more than 50 years ago. When he registered the university, he received an admission package from the university indicating the honor codes. And he found it quite beneficial. Then what do we do in terms of familiarizing our students with academic integrity values? Here, you see what we did this year at Çanakkale 18 Mart University. We delivered seminars. So indeed, this was the largest seminar that we organized this year for this promotion, and our rector also was there joining us. Here, going back to Özgür's study once again, and here it specifically refers to K-12 level. So if we believe that if we start at an early age, then it will be more practical for our students, because they will be aware of academic integrity values before they come to university. Here, going back to pedagogical approaches, we need to take sociocultural differences into account. And especially when it comes to international students, we need to consider their language proficiency, target language proficiency, the identity and background knowledge, because they could be acting as some barriers here. And for pedagogical approach here, for example, this is my model that I developed in order to teach academic writing, anonymous multimediated writing model. And this model was listed by a good model by the Australian Territory Education Quality and Qualifications Agency, and also received Turnitin Global Innovation Award. What I am trying to show you here is we need to provide a way of encouraging our students to act with integrity. Of course, there are some threats to academic integrity. Here I am referring to academics, already referred to some misconducts. And this time I am referring to academic fraud. Then what is academic fraud? Here you see plagiarism, contract cheating, collusion, and cheating at the exam. This can be considered as academic misconduct. But when these misconducts become larger problems, then cheating, for example, becomes deception. Deception becomes academic fraud. And in the society especially, it may become corruption. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to correct corruption when it occurs. So what we try to do at a global manner is preventing corruption before it occurs. Otherwise, it will be quite difficult for the society to correct it. Okay, when we go back to academic misconduct, we are already familiar with plagiarism, but I'd like to clarify what we mean by contract cheating. There are assignments which sell assignments to students. And contract cheating refers to students' contract with the third parties. So asking them to write their own assignments, and then usually, which is monetary. However, contract cheating does not require being monetary all the time. And collusion is referring to students' collaboration with each other. Sometimes we may deliver collaborative tasks, but of course, there are some other individual tasks. And if students are collaborating for individual tasks, then it means that this is a collusion. Okay, before we apply any sanction in the case of academic misconduct, we need to be very careful. We need to make sure that we have transparent approaches. We are consistent, and our policies, we are showing the responsibilities of every stakeholders. We are differentiating accidental plagiarism, let's say, for example, deliberate plagiarism, or we are differentiating repeating cheaters or plagiarizers from the first-time cheaters or plagiarizers. If you believe that from the point of plagiarism, if you believe that you implement text matching software such as Turnitin and you will prevent plagiarism problem, it doesn't work. It never works. If you do not benefit from a pedagogical approach, it won't help. That's why I am referring to Debbie here.
Professor, please you summarize.
Okay, so I have 5 minutes, right?
1 or 2 minutes, please, because we take the time from other professors.
Okay, indeed, I was planning to move to scandals and their impact, but I am skipping them then. And here, this could be a good suggestion in order to find good practice notes. This coming from the Australian agency, Territory Education Agency. As for conclusion, academic integrity policies are institution specific. The policy which works at a specific institution may not work for the other universities. And once developed, they will need revisions. So it is quite important to revise policies. It is good to revise them every 3 years, but of course this depends as well. If you need any assistance at the network, we are ready to provide any assistance for you. Okay, I'd like to thank you for your participation.
Thank you for your excellent presentation, Professor Razi. And now welcome to the seventh session. This is seventh session and presenter is Professor Johanna Madalinska-Michalak. Michalak, she is a full professor of social science and she is based at the Faculty of Education, University of Warsaw, Poland. She is a head of the chair of didactic and teacher education, a member of board of scientific discipline, University of Warsaw, and a member of University Board of the Pedagogical University in Krakow, Poland. Her research work has focused on teacher education, education leadership, teachers and school principal development and research ethics. She is the author of more than 50 scientific publication, mainly articles in journals and books. She is involved with global, international, and national scientific organizations. She will talk about online learning and participatory supervision. Now, please welcome our third presenter, Professor Johanna Madalinska-Michalak.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this lovely introduction. I would like to say thank you to the organizers of the conference, especially to Dean J. Coxall for inviting me to this congress. And today I would like to share with you my experiences connected with the supervision. I would like to share the screen. Let us see if it works. I hope that you see this. So now what is the title of my presentation? I will focus on online learning and participatory supervision during the presentation. And the presentation is based on the project in which I'm involved with the colleagues from the University of Johannesburg from South Africa. And at the beginning, just a few words about the supervision and especially supervision of PhD students. As you know, I don't know how is it in your countries, but usually when we discuss the issue of doctoral supervision, we mainly concentrate on describing the list of functions that must be carried out by the professor who is supervisor of a PhD student. And these functions are connected mainly with the student project management. And what we can say that this functional approach for sure is necessary, because without this, I think it would be difficult to even imagine about the accomplishment of the PhD research. However, current time show us the necessity to have a different approach to research supervision. And today we have two brilliant lectures. I would like to say thank you to my colleagues. They pay our attention to the issue how we can rethink the learning in the current circumstances, and the issue of psychology, the issue of pedagogy, technology should be taken into account, and also this academic integrity. And when we look at the research supervision, we see that nowadays it's very important when to work with the students on the enculturation. So it's the situation where the student is encouraged to become a member of the disciplinary community. So not only we think about the situation where students will accomplish their PhD work, but it's the issue how they can become a researcher, in fact. For this, we need the critical thinking, emancipation, and I think the time of COVID show us in a very direct way that what is important for the education and the PhD program, in fact, it is about the education, is to develop a quality relationship. Relationship should be put in the center of any education. And the PhD student also should feel that is inspired and carried for the supervisor, and that he or she can rely on supervisor. And in the literature on supervision, we can find that postgraduate supervision is treated as a kind of a personal journey of discovery, journey that can lead a student to transformation and the creation of a strong personal identity as a researcher and a professional, a person who in the future will work at the university as academic. So also in the literature, we can find that any supervision approach should be meaningful and participatory. And when we think about the meaningful supervision, in fact, we should pay our attention to this broader purpose of supervision, and it should go beyond the product of the dissertation. Yes, and participatory model, it's about supervision that it's more socially inclusive, that it is representative, and it focuses on relational ways of engagement. So for sure, we can take into account that now it's the time to go beyond these linear and hierarchical supervisory models that are quite popular at different universities in different regions of our world. And also, as an assumption, and I think the direction to the future is the issue of the communities of scholars, the issue of the need for learning communities. So the creation, development, and such communities towards responsive and relevant research demand from us, as I mentioned, this participatory approach. When we try to create a community of scholars, and also we should put in the center the enculturation interdisciplinary community. And
yeah. Your presentation don't change. Can you check it again?
Don't work?
Yeah, only we can see the first presentation. First paper we can see.
Let's just try again. Sorry. What about this now?
No, unfortunately.
No. So maybe I can ask, because I sent the presentation to Omar, so maybe Omar can share the presentation.
Maybe it's Professor Ömer, if you want. Ömer Hocam duyabiliyor musun bizi? Sorry.
Let us try again with this. Let us see. Do you see now?
If you start your presentation, maybe change.
I shared the presentation right now, and I don't know, do you see this or not?
Not, oh. Unless we can see now first your
slide. I don't know what happened. So as I said, maybe I will stop sharing.
If you want, click the left up Alt Posh Zachko, maybe. You to click.
Can you click
I don't know.
the left-hand side?
I stopped the sharing, so maybe I can ask Omar to share the presentation and he will help me to move through the presentation if the presentation is needed, because we can now move on without the presentation.
Yes, start the screen. Yes.
Now we have.
Yeah, first I can see. Yes.
And now, do we have the other slide?
No, unfortunately.
Our colleagues. So maybe we'll manage without the slides.
Second slide on the left side.
Can you click the second slide?
The left-hand
Left side.
Yeah, look, there is the second super
Maybe
about
in the
this.
menu, maybe. You can track.
This one. I'm changing the slides, but as you said, maybe you don't see this.
Only we can see first. If you try the left slides, for example, second or third slides, maybe change.
And now
No, we can't see.
Yesterday.
Could you tell more why did
Colleagues, my suggestion is, because time is flying, so if you see the first slide is okay, and let us move to the main issue. Okay, so what I would like to share with you, we will come back. Yeah.
Okay, if you want, you can continue. So.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would be. It would be.
There is a technical problem. No problem. You can continue.
Yeah. So thank you for this. So I I mentioned about the idea of supervision, how we can nowadays think about the how we can think about the supervision. And I stress out that it's very important to take into account the process of supervision, the process of becoming a researcher. And within the process, we see that the issue of values is very important, and it is connected with the enculturation into a disciplinary community. And in this process, the student voice is one of the most important issue for us when we think about the communities of scholar. Time of COVID show us that we have to move to online study. And at the different levels of education, also at the university, we notice that the online masters, doctoral programs contribute through sharing a living, you can say, curriculum design process and its implementation process. And in time of COVID, we have to rethink the education. And also we notice how much important is to combine technology, pedagogy, and as Professor Joseph stressed out, psychology of learning, psychology of belonging to the community. And when we think about the PhD project and the issue of researcher development, we see how much important is to create at the universities collegial, supportive, collaborative way. And the project in which I'm involved, and I would like to share with you the main idea of the project with the University of Johannesburg is mainly connected with the supervision and the issue how we can see the opportunities of online learning and online education. In our project, we put in the center the student voice, and we ask as a researcher, what is student voice? What does it mean to participate in the development of community of scholars? Do current policies and practices on student supervisor relationship constrain or enable student voice? What are the causes of friction between supervisors and students? And the other question for us is, what would students like to say to supervisors? In what ways are student voices suppressed at the universities? When do they feel colonized, disregarded, marginalized? What type of conversation should characterize student-supervisor relationship in the context of 21st century education and online learning? The other two questions that we pose in the center of our project are as follow. What are the students' challenges and opportunities in grappling with this new normal? And if students could design their own postgraduate journeys, what would it look like? And we are working now on the book. The title of this monograph is, as you see, Leading Online Learning, Participatory Supervision as a Pathway for Cultivating Postgraduate Research Communities. And this book is edited by Professor Kat Yassin. In this book, we decided to have three different sections. The section 1 is about the participatory supervision, and we present theories of participatory supervision, models, curriculum design, and pedagogy. Section 2 is about the online technologies and how, with the use of online technologies, we can think about the community building, skill development, and support. And section 3 is about the researcher development, especially about the identity and networks. And together with Professor Logan Govender from University of Johannesburg, I work on the chapter about the research identity formation in the context we mean about this online learning. And we designed the research study on the researcher identity. We work with our PhD students, and in the center of our study, we put some questions. So we would like to critically evaluate the opportunities and constraints that online forms of engagement have had in our researcher development journey. We would like to discuss the challenges and values that have shaped the students' action and agency in the research identity formation before and during COVID time. Also, we were looking at the support that it's really important for the students, what kind of the support they were given in order to, to the research identity formation. And we try to learn from these students, listen to their voices about the teacher education. What do they think, what is important for the teacher education and preparation in the future? And regarding these different questions, we noticed that what is important for formation of the student identity is the social presence. Is very important nowadays to have very important nowadays to help the students to use the time and space what we have now regarding the issue of online education. And one of our students say when we ask the students about this critically, about the evaluations of the opportunities that online form of engagement have had in his research development journey, the student said that online forms of engagement provides a flexible and convenient capability of technology assist supervisor to meet electronically both rural and outlying areas covered at various locations with proper equipment. It removes and reduces money and time, travel budget, and distance barrier required. So students, they appreciate what online education gives them. They see that some barriers can be overcome, and they see that online education can help them to develop. However, they say also that online engagement is not for everyone. As such, it is not essential to replace face-to-face supervision involving some physical location. Most of the time, it's marred by technological failures and lacks of experience with computer-based technology threaten online supervision. It has limited opportunity to view non-verbal communication. There is also limited bonding between the students and supervisor. And the students, they stress out that the presence, the relationship are really important for them in order to develop as a researcher. So, as I mentioned, we ask about the values, what is important for these students, and how the values are connected with the development as a researcher. And one of the students mentioned, my personal identity, driven by the need to acquire more knowledge and to grow in the education field, has pushed me to become a researcher. Furthermore, I'm a naturally inquisitive person, so my desire to know more about issues around me is one of the main push factors in my research journey. My family values education, hence, I always have people pushing me to go further with my education. However, the most important value that shapes my research identity is a search for understanding. The search for understanding why social life is what it is. This is not guided by my family, school, peer, community, or university influence per se. In other words, I didn't develop this desire to understand social life in any of these spaces. However, the ability to contribute to all these spaces as a result of lessons learned from research and understanding social life does maintain my passion and is a motivating factor. So some students in our study, they stress out that there is a lot of different factors that influence on them as researcher. However, what they see, what is important for them is sometimes something which is increasing in them. And the issue about the teacher education, the students, they mentioned that I will quote one of the students, the rapidly changing student-supervisor relationship in relation to ICT will be extremely important in changing the ways in which teacher education curriculum is framed. It will allow for a more inclusive environment in which student voices can be heard and accommodated. I foresee a future in which researcher training and development will be a specific area of study. ICT knowledge will no longer be the domain of the supervisor, as students who are coming into the research field may be more exposed to ICT than their supervisors. Research, training, and development will therefore become a mutual and reciprocal exchange of skills and knowledge. And some concluding remarks, because I see that it might be difficult to you to follow me regarding the issue that you don't see this presentation. So what we would like to, what is important to think about the supervision in the current context. I think that this idea and the practice of participatory models of supervision, especially at the level of doctoral study, the participatory model in area where collective capacity building, system thinking, and collaboration have come to the forefront cannot be ignored. We have to focus on this model because it is really needed. It's timely, and building research capacity is important goal for university. If we would like to think about this academic integrity, if we would like to put into center these 5 different values as as our colleague show us, we have to take into account how to promote interactions between researchers, between the supervisor and PhD student as well, because we should bear in mind that any PhD student can be a part of the academia in the future. And what we need for sure nowadays, it's the needs for new democratic, empowered, and inclusive approaches to PhD within the current context of face-to-face and online postgraduate supervision approaches. And universities, they embrace online learning, and there is a further need to reconceptualize supervision and to see innovative new approaches to supervision, including also these new theoretical frameworks. And there is the question, what do collaborative structures such as professional learning communities, networks, and teams offer in postgraduate student journey? From my point of view, the future holds great promise for new ways of thinking about supervision. So I would like to finish maybe with this. If you have any question, you're welcome. I will try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Madeniska Mihalak. It's a very nice presentation. If you have any question for Professor Madeniska Mihalak, please add them in the chat and we can answer them now. Professor Mihalak, Tamari Dodisa ask you, will it be possible you share this presentation later?
For sure, I sent the presentation to the organizer of the conference, so you are welcome to share the presentation with the conference participants.
Okay, very much, thanks. Is there any question? I think that there is no question. Okay. Thank you to all our presenters today, and thank you for attending this session. Enjoy the rest of the 2021 Annual Congress. Thank you. See you later. Next session. Good day.
Emin Hocam merhaba.
Merhabalar, nasılsınız?
Nasılsınız? İyi misiniz?
İyiyim, teşekkürler. Siz nasılsınız Eda Hocam?
Teşekkür ederim, sağ olun. Sizin de var bu session.
Evet, evet, bu session'dayız.
Evet. İyi, böyle de denk gelmiş olduk.
Aynen, aynen. Yüksek lisans öğrencim. Biraz sonra gelecek, o da katılacak. Olsun olacak. Hı hı.
Güzel. Kolay gelsin.
Teşekkürler, sağ olun.
Nasıl Yıldız Teknik'te işler yolunda mı? Yıldız
Her şey-
Teknik'tesiniz değil mi siz?
Evet, Yıldız Teknik
Hı hı.
Üniversitesi. Her şey çok güzel. Sizin nasıl?
Sağ olun hocam. Yoğun işte sizinkisi gibi aynı. Sizin
Şey-
TÜBİTAK bitti.
Evet, size böyle bir donma, kesik geliyor ses ama benden mi kaynaklı, sizden mi kaynaklı acaba?
Allah Allah. Şu anda kesik geliyor mu sesim?
Ya hatta görüntü de öyle geliyor.
Bir dakika
Yani
internete
biraz
bak.
önceki session'ları izledim, öyle değildi sanki. Onu bir
Bir
haber
dakika. Bakayım tamam. Bir daha bir check edeyim.
Hı hı.
Bir dakika geliyorum.
Tamam, tamam.
Semin hocam.
Efendim hocam.
Şu anda nasıl?
Sanki daha net. Evet, evet. Şu anda.
Aşağıdaki paylaşımı kapatıp geldim de daha net olsun diye.
Anladım. Demek ki
Teşekkür ederim. Sağ olun.
Teşekkür ederim.
Feedback için.
Görüşmek üzere.
Görüşürüz hocam. Okay, so let's get started for today's session. Dear our guests and our participants, it is an honor to be with you here. And this will be the first session for the oral presentations. And before the session starts, please note that each session will be recorded. And if you have any question, you may ask them within 2 or 3 minutes. And each presenter has 10 minutes for their presentations. So the first presenter is me. So let's get started. Okay. So as you see, the title is Examining the Effect of Students' Language Background on Their Evaluations about Second Language Learning Process at a Preparatory Program. And the outline of my session will be number 1, justification, then research questions, then methodology, and finally results and discussion. And as I told you before, the focus will be on program evaluation of a preparatory program. And why do we have such kind of an evaluation? It is twofold. It can either improve the program, which is defined as formative evaluation, which is known as summative evaluation. And in the first one, it is used to gather and share information for program improvement by identifying problematic aspects, whereas the latter one is applied at the end of a program to get information about program success. And it is also pointed out that program evaluation should be conducted regularly by using one of these methods, identifying whether students are meeting the learning objectives and leading to the necessary changes. In this respect, program evaluation in education is both central and challenging task, and foreign language instruction is no exception. That is why I just focused on...
Eda hocam, pardon bölüyorum ama bizde slaytlar kaymıyor.
Why is it the case?
Bilemiyorum. Bir daha yansıtır mısınız? Tamam, şimdi oldu. Teşekkürler.
Okay. Let's do it in that way. Can you follow it now?
Evet, şimdi düzeldi. Teşekkürler. Duyuyoruz.
Yes.
Okay, good. So despite the centrality of the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages in Language Teaching and Assessment, studies investigating its learning outcomes in language program evaluations are quite scarce, and that is why I focused on such kind of a study. And okay, so the survey research method was used as a research methodology in the study. As a sample of this research, 813 students attending at mid-sized university preparatory school were used, and data was collected during the fall and spring semesters of the term that is given, and communal sampling method was used. And you can see the variables and the categories for the participants. As you see, we have level, experience, type, and weight of the program that they are enrolled. And in the study, the language background form and foreign language skills scale were used to collect quantitative data. And there are 4 questions in the, let's say, language background form. So the first one is the current level, proficiency level. Next one is the experience, whether they have 1 year or 2 years at preparatory program, and type of the program, whether it is mandatory, and English language weight. And as I told, foreign language skills scale developed by Arslan was also used to collect the data during the study. So the scale includes 27 items and 5 factors, examining the contents of the items gathered under these 5 factors. And in the scale, there are 8 items in the first factor named writing skill, and there are 5 items in each of the factors named speaking skill and listening skill and reading skill. In addition, there are 4 items in the factor named core English. And of course, the data were uploaded to the SPSS program and analyzed. And the research questions were, what are students' opinions about their learning outcomes in foreign language skills in relation to their current level of English proficiency? And what are their opinions in foreign language skills in relation to their experience in the program? And what are their opinions about the learning outcomes of foreign language skills in relation to the type of the program? And finally, what are their opinions about the learning outcomes of foreign language skills in relation to English language weight? And here you can see the overall results, and you can see the results for each, let's say, language skill. And you can see that as the proficiency level increases, the mean scores of the participants also increase, which means that the more proficient our students are, the more satisfied they feel. So it is the same in reading skill, in listening, in speaking, in writing, and in core English, as you see. And when we just have a look at their scores regarding their experience, we have 1 year, and you can see that there is a significant difference between the groups, because first-year students are more satisfied with the program than the students with 2 years in the program. And the next one is about their type of the program in the prep classes. We all know that in prep programs, it is mandatory or optional. But if you look at the mean scores of the participants, you can easily understand that there was no significant difference among the groups. Then comes the participants' opinions related to the weight, because we have such kind of variables, 3 variables in that group. And when you look at the mean scores again, you can see that in each of the groups, overall reading, listening, speaking, writing, and core, the weight of the program with 100 mandatory English, in that group, students are more satisfied with the groups from the other, let's say, weights of the program. So these students are more satisfied.
Eda Hocam.
Yeah.
We cannot follow your slides again.
Again? Okay. So let's do it in that way. You see it now?
Yes, Hocam.
Okay. So here in the type of the weight, you can see that students from 100 mandatory English program are more satisfied when compared to the other programs. So these were the results of the study, and overall, when we look at it, we can see that we should motivate our students coming from their second years, because they feel demotivated because they repeat the program again. That is why, that can be why their mean scores are lower. And the results of the quantitative data indicate that in general, the modular system designed to be in line with the common European framework of reference for languages guidelines serves for a high quality language program for the students enrolled in the preparatory school, since students performed a high level of agreement in the acquisition of all language skills. And the findings also show that while students generally find themselves competent in all 4 language skills, they feel themselves most confident in the reading skills. And the second skill is students see themselves as more competent is writing skills. And this is the end of my presentation. So let's check time. Okay, so 10 minutes, it is over, and my presentation is over. So if you have any question, I can just take them, or any comments, I can take them. If not, we may just move on to the next one. I am just checking the chat box. Yeah, Ahmet Erdost, thank you for your attention. Nihan hocam, Semin hocam. Okay, and Tamar, thank you all for your nice comments and attention.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. So if not, we may just move on to the next presentation. So the next presenters are Leyla Kalkan and Gülten Genç, and their presentation's title is Evaluation of the 5th Grade Intensive English Language Teaching Program through the Perspectives of Students. Can you share the screen, Leyla hocam? Now you can.
Okay, thank you. Can you see the slides now? Okay. My name is Leyla. I am a student at Inan University. Today's topic is the evaluation of 5th grade intensive foreign language classroom implementation through the students' perceptions. I'm an English teacher myself, so this is actually an implementation that we are carrying in our school. So the outline for today's presentation is, firstly, we will look at the history of Turkey's foreign language education programs, and then we will look at what is this program, and then thirdly, theoretical background of the study. We will briefly look at previous studies, then we will move to the methodology. After methodology, we will have our results and conclusions and references. So the history of Turkey's foreign language education starts in 1997. Of course, it starts.
Hocam. Dear participants, can you turn off the microphone? Please. Sorry for the interruption, hocam.
No problem.
Okay, we have some noise. Background. So can you turn off your microphones, the listeners, I mean? Okay, thanks, hocam.
So it starts with 1997, but of course it dates back more. It actually starts in Ottoman times, but we will look at the recent foreign language education programs. In 1997, English has become mandatory foreign language for the 3rd grade curriculum. And then in 2006, they developed a new curriculum. They use more communicative activities. And then in 2012, we have 4+4+4 program. With this, a year later, English became a mandatory language for 2nd grade. And in 2017, Ministry of National Education decided to implement a new program, a foreign language intensive program, but this time for the 5th grade. There's still noise.
Leyla hocam, sorry. Zekeriya hocam, can you turn off your microphone, please? Sorry for the interruption, hocam. Yeah.
Thank you. So what is this program? This program started in 2017. At first, they used 15 hours of English a week, but then a year later, they decided 15 hours are too much and 11 hours a week is enough. With this program, the students get long exposure to the new foreign language, and it starts at a young age, so that's a plus for the program. And but the problem with the program is because English is more used. Because of that, other classes have less hours, and usually these classes are arts or physical education classes. That's why students have some problems with the program. And the theoretical background of the study, the curriculum can be defined as our pathway of education. Kelly stated that there have been many different explanations and usages for the term curriculum. He used the term as the whole knowledge and practice that a student gets through the exposure and preparation. Our second term is evaluation. Evaluation is when we measure something, but in science explanation, evaluation is defined as assessing something's value. When we combine these two terms, we get curriculum evaluation. Curriculum evaluation is a process of curriculum being constructed and reconstructed. So we have a curriculum, we are going to assess it, and then the results of that study gets the curriculum a much better way. Let's move on here. The theoretical background of the study again. The different in education setting, we have different ways to use to evaluate curriculums. There are various models, but there are 4 models that are used the most. These are Tyler's objective model, Stakes responsive model, and Scriven's goal-free model, and lastly, Schaffelbaum's CIPP model. This study used Schaffelbaum's CIPP model. CIPP is an acronym for context, input, process, and product. Schaffelbaum expressed that curriculum evaluation should be done to develop, not to prove some point. So it is actually the main point in his theory. Context evaluation's purpose is to determine the readiness of physical surroundings of curriculum. Input evaluation is done to understand needs. The implementation procedures are observed within the process evaluation. Outcomes from educational setting is seen and evaluated by product evaluation. But now let's look at some previous studies. There are many studies on these subjects, but usually, as you can see with blueprints, these studies are mostly done with teachers or administrators. There are little studies on students, and usually these students are high-level students. But this time in this study, we used 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade students. So this study specifically wants to find answers to the following questions. What are the perspectives of students towards the implementation? And do the perspectives change in terms of grades and gender? Our participants are a secondary school in Diyarbakir. There are 232 students, from which 131 are female, 101 are male. We have 50 students that are 5th grade, 62 students that are 6th grade.
Arkada böyle bir şey çalsan. Sıfırdan başlatmam lazım bilgisayarı.
Dilay hocam, can you turn off your microphone, please?
Okay. 47 students that are 7th grade and 73 students that are 8th grade students. Our students' age range is from 10 to 14. Data collection instrument. The data was collected through a questionnaire that was originally developed by Karataş, but later Arap worked on his questionnaire and developed it further. We used Arap's version, but the current study used Arap's version, but we emitted some questions to be more, how can I say, be more confident with our students' level. So 31 questions with 4 dimensions are used, 5 questions for context evaluation, 6 for input evaluation, and again 6 for process evaluation, and 14 for product evaluation. The reliability of our data collection instruments can be seen on the screen. We look at the Comba Alpha and it seemed all right.
Hocam, this is your last 4 minutes.
Okay, then data analysis were made with SPSS 27, and then I can skip on here. Results are students' general opinions about the implementation. Students generally had positive opinions about the implementation. with process evaluation, they all agreed with then again positive opinions about it, and with also product and let's say here, not here. Let's move on here. Okay, in terms of their grades, again, there is a difference between groups. We did a post-hoc key test to find out which groups make differences, and seventh graders and eighth graders had more negative thoughts about the implementation than fifth and sixth grades. So we can conclude it like this. Students generally had a positive attitude towards the program. Even though students thought positively about the program, they did not find it. The textbooks are interesting. Time for the course and repetitions were seen enough. Students stated that the implementation gave them the habit of studying English, but not the habit of studying with groups. Language skills were viewed as developed except from the speaking skill. Female students had more positive thoughts than male students. Fifth grade and sixth grade students had more positive thoughts than seventh and eighth grade students in terms of three dimensions, which were context, products, and product. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I can take them now.
Okay, Leyla Hocam, thanks for your let's say contribution and your presentation. And if our participants have some questions or comments, we can get them now.
I have a question, if it is okay for Leyla Hocam.
Of course, ma'am.
Leyla Hocam, I think it's an interesting finding that your participants did not find the textbooks not interesting. As an observer, why do you think they did not like the textbooks? What might be the reasons? Maybe you can lead the way for further studies.
Of course. Well, when we look at our textbooks, their paper are really not. They didn't have quality, and the pictures are usually not quite good actually, and there is too much listening and too much the activities are they did not have any link with students. That's why.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then let's move on to the next presentation. And our next presenters are Mehmet Zeki Sensöz and Nihan Erdemir. And their presentation's title is Graduate Studies on Flipped Learning in English Language Teaching in Turkey, a Systematic Review. Yes, Hocam.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. First of all, I want to thank you all the organizers and attendees of the Congress. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Mehmet Zeki Sensöz, and I am a state school English language teacher as well, and also an MA student at Süleyman Demirel University. We conducted our research with Assistant Professor Nihan Erdemir, as you said before. Let me share my screen. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yeah, Hocam, sure.
Thank you. The topic of my presentation is, as you said earlier, graduate studies on flipped learning in English language teaching in Turkey. First, I want to share my flow of presentation. I'll start with the introduction, in which I will shortly give some information about the flipped learning and flipped classroom. And then I'll be focusing on the studies in the literature, review studies, systematic reviews, other studies. And I'll tell you the aim of our research. Next, after that, I'll explain the methodology that we used and why we used this method. Then we will discuss the results and finish with a summary. Now, let's start with the definition. In flipped learning, can simply be defined in the literature as the schoolwork at home and homework at school, but it's beyond that, actually. Blended learning, active learning, and constructivism theories lie at the root of flipped learning. Though there were teachers before trying to invert or flip their classrooms in other ways, other names, it got its name from Bergman and Sams in 2008. These were the people recording their lessons for those who missing their classes in 2008. However, it went far beyond this. There were other educational improvements in the flipped method, master learning, etc. Making the most of using the educational technological opportunities and lessons all around the world have been undergoing a transformation, actually. With the pandemic, especially, we used more educational technologies and integrated them to our instructions. Also, students are changing. In this case, they want to be active, and teachers also want them to be more active. Both learning through activity and educational technologies have changed the traditional learning environment to a more flexible, more collaborative, and supporting the 21st century skills. And also, Bloom's taxonomy, the objectives in the Bloom's taxonomy also switch their places. Recently, we can see in the literature plenty of studies, literature reviews, systematic reviews, just like Zhou 2020, Turan Aktaçman's study. These are really precious studies, but some of them have limitations, and the most of the previous studies are article-based studies, and the graduate studies were not included. However, we can say that graduate studies were more comprehensive and long-term studies. They can give out more information about the Philip method. And in the literature, in those studies in the previous slide, they reported the impacts, the effects of flipped learning method on language learning under these titles. They explored the academic achievement in writing, speaking, and so on. They investigated the learner autonomy, how it affects the learner autonomy, the learner's self-regulation skills, their self-paced learning skills, and also their motivation. We can say that the benefits, it has benefits for both teachers and students. On the other hand, of course, we have some challenges encountered by teachers, instructors, or the students. The aim of our study was to investigate descriptive features of the studies and their main findings regarding flipped learning, such as, again, their benefits and their burdens it put on the instructors or teachers. The descriptive features can be summarized as the study years, the type of studies, the universities, publication places, what methods they employed in their study, and which sample groups they chose while studying the subject. And the last but not the least, which skills are more commonly taught with flipped learning method. We tried to find out the answers for these questions. And the second question, the findings, we try to reach the benefits of flipped classrooms or flipped learning in language teaching and the challenges we investigated. As a method, we adopted the systematic review. This method has gained popularity and growing acceptance in many fields, actually. The nursing field, mathematics, engineering. Why the researchers do such studies? I can answer this question with like this. The systematic reviews helps the researchers find a research gap. What can we investigate about this topic? We would like to help the researchers at this point. While collecting data, we use the key terms flipped, inverted, inversed, ELT, and their Turkish translated versions, ters yüz and ters düz. We collected the data from the Council of Higher Education, namely YÖK Thesis Center, reached 29 graduate studies, and they were ranging from 2014 and 2020. While analyzing the data, the collected data were subject to the content analysis. The emerging categories, themes, and codes were interpreted. Now, let's turn now to the discussion results and discussion part. I'll begin by showing the charts and tables related to the descriptive features of flipped learning studies. And then we'll go on benefits and challenges. When we look at the first chart here, we can see a growing interest to the topic in the recent years, especially after the 2018. The researchers are more curious about the topic. And in the table here below, we can see that most of the studies are like master's thesis, and there are a few number of doctoral dissertations. And this may indicate us there remains unexplored, untouched areas of flipped learning, and the researchers can thoroughly explore these points. And let's take a look at this chart. We can see a lot of studies here, and there is no one university that predominates the research topic. Gazi University has 4 studies, Çay University has 2, and it goes on like 1 and 2 from Bahçeşehir University. Okay. And when we look at this chart, we can see that most of the studies are the mixed ones, mixed type studies. It is followed by the quantitative studies. It may be interesting that there is no pure qualitative studies. Most of the quantitative studies were strengthened by qualitative techniques, and they became mixed type studies.
Mehmet Hocam, this is
Yes?
the last 5 minutes for you.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. We can see that Turan Aktay Çimen has a similar result. In their research also, there were fewer number of qualitative studies. And another study Flies and Benzet, 2018. Most of the studies were quantitative. They concluded like this, and it's followed by mixed method studies. When we look at the sample groups, a correlation with the majority of flipped learning research all around the world, the samples are chosen from university students. It may be because of the accessibility of the students, the samples, and their controllability, and tech proficiency of the students may be the reasons for choosing university students. And the last one, language skills. The most investigated language skill is grammar with flipped learning, and it is followed by writing. And Turan Akta Çimens also concluded speaking and writing is more investigated. And in this study, multi-skills instruction is more commonly investigated. And the second research question, it's time to look at the benefits and the challenges. Though it has advantages for both learners and teachers, we can't deny the challenges as well. As we start with the benefits, the table shows us learners' improvement in language skills, and learner autonomy is perceived to be fostered in this table. The improvement in grammar skills stands out. Probably there are more research related to grammar skills. And in many studies, learners seem to be enjoyed the flipped learning method. There are some enhancements inside the classroom. It changes the classroom atmosphere, and it makes the classroom more collaborative and flexible. The learners' interaction also with teacher and peers are fostered. And as we are moving on the last slide of benefits, a key point to note here, cognitive skills, the number of studies exploring cognitive skills is rather scarce, which may tell us also a research gap. Here, some researchers can work on the cognitive skills with flip methods, how it affects the cognitive skills of students. And the last one of our findings, challenges. Apart from benefits, as we said earlier, there are challenges as well in any educational methodology. There are far less than benefits there. These challenges may be summarized under 4 titles: technical problems, problems related to technical issues like not having a digital devices or internet network. Material related problems, learners express in the studies, videos are so boring and they are not sufficient for to learn a subject. We can't learn, and the teacher had to revise the topic again, and it takes time.
The last 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
To wrap up.
Finalizing. And also learners have some problems, like they have difficulty in tasks when they don't watch the videos, or they say it increases the workload at home. We didn't used to have that much homework before, they can say. And the last one, instructors or teachers, the method puts an extra burden for the teachers. They have to be prepared for this. And we talked about this. And our goal is in this study was to explore the features and findings in the graduate studies. And we adopted the systematic review method and analyzed all the relevant research. And we can share the considerable results here. Doctoral thesis seems insufficient in insufficient number, and maybe more thorough studies can be carried out, and it has growing attention. And the last one, I think it's the most important one. We in this Congress, digital natives, the so-called digital natives are neglected in flipped learning. And I had some recommendations for the future research. Teachers' views, teachers' level of readiness, students' level of readiness can be explored with flipped methods. And primary, secondary school learners can be chosen as participants. And the impact on different aspects of instruction, the flipped methods impact can also be explored. The culprits, in the culprit session, I found out something. I got the screenshot. In that presentation, culprits presentation, don't flip or blend, but design your learning environment in a methodological way. He was saying like this, and it goes on first psychology, then pedagogy, and then technology. I liked it very much. I just wanted to say this. Now, thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, Mehmet Hocam and Nihan Hocam, thanks for this systematic review of research. It was an excellent research. And thanks for your, let's say, contribution. Can you just stop sharing your screen, Hocam? Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, our participants, they give their thanks to you, Hocam.
I thank you all the time.
Any question? Okay, then we may just move on to the next presentation. Our next presenters are Esra Ece and Semin Kazazoğlu, and their presentation's title is The Effect of Internet Self-Efficacy on Online EFL Instructor Job Satisfaction.
Yes. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Hello everyone, my name is Esra and I'm an English instructor at Bilgi University and I'm a master student in Yıldız Technical University. And today I'll talk about the effect of internet self-efficacy on EFL instructor job satisfaction. As an unexpected situation, the COVID-19 caused a compulsory shift, as you know, and during spring 2020, then fall spring 2021, education had to become online and instructors had to work from home. Even though the technology is integrated into education, instructors are accustomed to using internet in daily life. However, the inevitable reasons caused a massive shift and some of the instructors have been, not all of them have been ready to teach fully online, we can say. Okay, there's some definition in this study. First of all, the online course, Allen and Steeman classify the online course when more than 80% of course content is delivered online. An online instructor who facilitates the delivery of online education and teaches course material. Job satisfaction is a very general term and we will talk about it later. Actually, the needs of faculty are investigated in general from the broader perspective, like instructor general experience and online teaching requirements. And we can say that the number of the studies on specific points of individual sense of professional contentment of instructors is really limited. Therefore, this study aims to reveal the job satisfaction of online English instructors because they experience a totally new teaching model by investigating their job satisfaction and comparing its possible relations to internet self-efficacy so that new ideas can be offered. This is our hypothesis. Online instructors who have higher self-efficacy.
Esra hocam,
yes.
We can't see the slides that you move on, okay? So can you just stop
yes.
it? Yeah, now we have it.
Now we can.
Thanks, Emine
Thank
hocam.
you. Our hypothesis is online instructors who have higher self-efficacy using internet practices are more satisfied with their job and they feel more professional satisfied on the job than those who do not engage in such perceptions. Okay, I can move on. First of all, the first theory, transactional theory, it was Moore's theory, you know this, of course, and the basic definition of distance education before the study would tend to be summarized as the location separation between learner and instructors. After this theory, the understanding of distance has become not a simply geographic separation of learner and teachers, but more importantly, a pedagogical concept. And these are some elements of the theory. Moore proposed that the location is not only the determining factor of effectiveness of instruction, although location is supposed to be the main challenge for distance education, the real obstacle is caused by too much structure and little interaction between learner and instructor. And instructor job satisfaction, general explanation can be the overall attitude and views of teachers toward their working condition and profession. Of course, there are some variables affecting job satisfaction. These can be age, education level, work experience, and emotional states. On the other hand, bad management, high stress level, low control level, and not being an active decision maker can decrease job satisfaction levels. Actually, it is a really complex term to discuss because it has some links between emotional well-being and other environmental factors. And the next theory of that study is social cognitive theory, because Bandura defined the self-efficacy concept, which is grounded in social cognitive theory. And self-efficacy concepts include personal judgments and perceptions and their influences on motivation and behavior. It can be said that self-efficacy is not only effective on existing knowledge, but also on the belief of being able to conduct a specific task by using the knowledge. And these are three dimensions of self-efficacy: magnitude, strength, and generality. And instructor self-efficacy, this theory or concept was conceptualized for the first time by Rand Corporation. They carried out a study and they realized that there was a remarkably positive correlation with student reading scores and teachers' high self-efficacy levels. Later, another group of researchers defined teacher self-efficacy as teachers' belief in capabilities to organize and execute the actions that require teaching specific tasks within a particular context. And internet self-efficacy, according to Joyce, it can be defined as an individual's belief in their potential to complete a specific task on the internet. Actually, in this study, we use Kim and Glassman scale because their approach was mostly about the internet self-efficacy from integration of different task because they say the internet is not a monolithic application, but it consists of different task-oriented possibilities.
Güneş Hocam, Güneş Hocam, can you turn off your microphone, please? Okay, sorry for the interruption.
Since they are the backbones of education, the role of online instructor has a great importance in quality of education. And the present study has a specific participant group, English instructors, because English instructors can create educational resources by using videos, images, graphics, and they can save time actually when we compare traditional classrooms to online courses. However, the success of those kinds of technology integrated activities depends on instructors' willingness and course planning skill and ability to use them. And we can say that the technical knowledge of the online instructor is an also important qualification for online education. Being a good user of computer and using the internet effectively are expected competencies of an online instructor. There are some related studies. Some studies showed that female teachers are more satisfied professional than males. And another study revealed that the majority of faculty thought that students were the major source of their satisfaction. Gay asserted that online instructors need to be ready to adapt their traditional teaching habits into online. For example, while giving feedback, they can create a sense of being connected with students, and it can be motivating for students. Therefore, we can say to increase online presence, instructors need to use technology effectively and adjust their lifestyle. Okay. And also there are some studies from Turkey like this. Okay.
Hocam, the last 5 minutes.
Okay, methodology of the study. We check correlation analysis and we use quantitative research. We had 2 scales, online instructor job satisfaction measure. It had 5 factors, and internet self-efficacy scale. And these are the reliability scores. And you can see our participants. In total, we had 216 participants. And findings, we had a Pearson correlation analysis to determine whether there was a relationship between internet self-efficacy and online job satisfaction level. And the results showed that there was a positive and moderate significant relationship between participant internet self-efficacy and instructor job satisfaction. And also we had some gender differences in that study. You can see there was a positive and strong correlation between sub-dimension of those scales. So we had another regression model. We use a multiple regression model to check the dependent variable, which is instructor job satisfaction, and its relationship with internet self-efficacy scales subdimensions. And the results showed that the course design dimension increases self-efficacy positively, and internet self-efficacy variable had a statistically significant effect on instructor job satisfaction. So we can say both affect each other positively. And to conclude, this study revealed that there were some differences between female and male participants. We also had some similar studies in literature. However, years of teaching experience or type of the institution didn't show any statistically significant difference in that study. As a result of correlation and regression analysis, we found out that internet self-efficacy and instructor job satisfaction has a positive correlation. Therefore, some institutional support for technology-based training can be provided to increase job satisfaction. And course design especially and organization were found as the most significant subdimensions in these scales. Of course, there are some limitations. We had a small group, and the other limitation is the pandemic, because some participants might have some difficulties in their personal life, and it might affect their job satisfaction as well. And thank you for listening. These are my references. If you have any questions, I can answer. I'm sorry, I know it's a bit fast, but I try to adjust my time. Yes. I cannot hear you, by the way, Eda Hocam.
Sorry, Esra Hocam. So Esra Hocam and Semin Hocam, it is really an interesting topic to study. So thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
And if we have any comments or questions, we may just get them now. If not, okay, I guess there isn't any question. Okay, so thank you again, Semin Hocam and Esra Hocam. Semin Hocam, your microphone is off.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, good. So now we have the next presenters, Ahmet Erdos Yastıbaş and Meltem Huri Baturay, and their presentation's title is Understanding Technostress of Turkish EFL Teachers in the Pandemic Era. So Ahmet Hocam.
Okay, merhaba hocam.
Merhaba.
And I'm sharing my screen with you. And today I'm going to make a presentation about understanding technostress of Turkish EFL teachers in the pandemic era. I conducted this research with Professor Dr. Meltem Huri Baturay from Atılım University. And this is the content of our presentation. First, I will give you information about the introduction, literature review, the aim of the study, and research questions. Secondly, I will give you information about the methodology, and then I will present you the preliminary findings of our research. Then I will end my presentation with discussion and conclusion part. First of all, in order to understand the aim of this research, it is important to know what technostress means. Technostress, we can define technostress in two ways. The first one is the type of stress that the use of technology creates, and the adaptation disorder that failure in dealing with technology in a healthy way leads. So as you see, as we can understand from the definition, technostress is related to our use of technology. And when it comes to the effects of technostress on teachers, on the individuals, we can say that if we are technologically stressed, we feel tired, anxious, depressed, and dissatisfied with our jobs, and we will be willing to give up using technology in our job or in teaching English to our students, and we will have a reduced job performance, I can say. And when we reviewed the literature, we have found out that teacher technostress has become a popular research topic in recent years. And there are several studies on technostress and teachers in the literature. And these studies focus on the reasons of technostress among teachers, what may reduce technostress among teachers, technostress levels of teachers, and the effects of technostress on teachers. And most of these studies show, almost all of the studies made about the technostress levels of teachers have indicated that the teachers in those studies have experienced a low and moderate level of technostress. And when it comes to the aim of the present study, with this study, we aim to find out the technostress levels of Turkish EFL teachers in the pandemic era and what causes and does not cause technostress among Turkish EFL teachers by answering the following research questions. We have 3 research questions for this study. What are the technostress levels of the Turkish EFL teachers? What causes technostress among Turkish EFL teachers if they feel technological stress? And what does not cause techno-stress among them if they do not feel technological stress. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we couldn't collect the data as much as we wanted. So this study, we had to design this study as a small-scale mixed method study. We could only reach 7 Turkish EFL teachers who worked in a Turkish university. And to collect data, we used the adapted version of techno-stress scale developed by Wang, Tan, and Lee. And we added an open-ended question to this questionnaire. To analyze the quantitative data, we used descriptive statistics. And to analyze the qualitative data, we used content analysis. And we categorize our findings as quantitative findings and qualitative findings. I will start with the quantitative findings. If you look at this is table 1, and table 1 presents us the descriptive statistics related to the items of the total related to the items of techno-stress scale. And if you look at item 1, 2, and 3, we see that our participants feel stressed. Our participants reported that they felt stressed to adapt to technology-enhanced teaching, and they found it difficult to effectively use technology-enhanced teaching due to their limited investment of time and effort, and they felt stressed to cope with the high demands of technology-enhanced teaching with their current capability. And if we look at item 4, we see that the same number of participants, 3 participants reported that they were pressured to change their current teaching habit and preference to meet the requirements of technology-enhanced teaching, while 3 participants did not feel the same way, did not feel so. And when we look at the rest of the items, again, we see that most of our participants in this study were not comfortable with the pervasive invasion of technology-enhanced teaching in all aspects of their work. They were irritated by the vast variety of technology-enhanced teaching, and they felt stress as the various forms of technology-enhanced teaching.
Sorry, Meral Hocam, can you turn off your microphone, please?
Teaching.
Yes, Hocam, sorry for the interruption.
Okay, thank you, Hocam. Thank you for your warning. And when it comes to the last one, we see that again, 3 participants felt stressed as they heavy reliance on technology teaching in their school disrupts their normal work pattern. I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. In items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, most of our participants did not agree with these items. But when it comes to item 4 and 8, we see that half of the same number of the participants agreed and disagreed with these items. And when we look at the descriptive statistics of the participants' total scores in techno-stress scale, we can say that when we look at their mean score, we can say they had, in this present study, they had a low level of techno-stress.
Meltem Hocam, can you turn off your microphone, please? Okay.
Okay. And when it comes to the qualitative findings of the study, we see that the participants who felt technologically stressed when they teach English with technology, they said tablets, workload, and preparation made them feel stressed. And when we look at the participants who reported that they didn't feel technologically stressed when they teach English with technology, they said that they believe that, they consider technology advantages, and they believe that technology made their lessons better. So these 2 factors caused them not to feel technologically stressed in teaching English with technology. And when it comes to the discussion and conclusion part, like the finding in the literature related to the level of technostress of teachers, we found that our participants in this study had a low level of technostress, and technological tools preparing for using technology in the class and workload may cause teachers to feel technological stress in teaching English with technology. On the other hand, when the teachers consider technology advantages and when they believe that using technology make their lessons better, they may not feel technological stress when they teach English with technology. And we have two implications in this study, pedagogical implications. The first one is the workload of EFL teachers instructors can be reorganized considering the requirements of technology-enhanced language teaching, so that EFL teachers instructors can find time to use technology effectively in their teaching. And our second pedagogical implication is that in-service training about how to use technological tools effectively in teaching English can be given to EFL teachers and instructors. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Ahmet Hocam.
Yes, Hocam.
So there is no doubt that the topic is quite central. So thank you, and thank you, Meltem Hocam, for this nice contribution. So
Yeah.
Ahmet Hocam, can you stop sharing your screen?
Okay.
Thank you again. So if there are any comments or questions, we can share with Ahmet Hocam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, our guests give their thanks to you, Ahmet Hocam.
Thank you, Hocam.
Okay, I guess Damla Hocam. Yeah. So I guess there isn't any question now. So thanks again for your contribution.
Thank you.
Good. So the next presenter is Damla, and her topic is the effect of enrollment age in early childhood education on 2018 PISA results. Okay, thank you Damla Hocam.
Merhaba hocam. Öncelikle sunum dilim Türkçe. Üzgünüm bunun için.
Okay.
Fark etmeyeceği söylendiği için ama istediğiniz zaman çevirisini yapabilirim.
You can do it. Okay.
Hocam görebiliyor musunuz?
Yeah, we can follow it.
Öncelikle herkese merhaba. Ben Cederbayar Üniversitesi Sosyal Bilimler Enstitüsü Eğitim Bilimleri Anabilim Dalı Eğitim Programları ve Öğretimde yüksek lisans öğrencisi Damla Barlas. Bugünkü sunum konum erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım yaşının 2018 PISA sonuçlarına etkisi. İlk olarak kısaca sunum içeriğimden bahsetmek istiyorum. Erken çocukluk dönemi ve kısaca PISA'dan bahsedeceğiz. Daha sonra problem durumum, çalışmanın amacı, yöntem bölümü, bulgular ve önerilerimle sunumumu tamamlayacağım. Erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine baktığımızda UNESCO erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimini doğumdan 8 yaşına kadar olan beyin gelişiminin zirvede olduğu önemli bir büyüme dönemi olarak tanımlamaktadır. Erken çocukluk bakımı ve eğitimi ilkokula hazırlıktan daha fazlası olarak görülmekle birlikte yaşam boyu öğrenme ve sağlam bir temel oluşturmak için çocuğun sosyal, duygusal, bilişsel ve fiziksel ihtiyaçlarının bütünsel gelişimini amaçlamaktadır. Ulusal Küçük Çocukların Eğitimi Derneği'ne göre bilinen adıyla National Association for the Education of Young Children, erken çocukluk dönemi eğitiminin kapsadığı belirli yaş aralıkları vardır. Biz bu çalışmada benim için genel olarak kritik bir dönem olarak görülen 3-5 yaş aralığı okul öncesi dönemi ele aldım. Bu dönemlerin kritik dönem olarak adlandırılmasının sebebi de çocukların 3-5 yaş aralığı arasında ince motor kaslarının gelişiminin en yüksek seviyede olduğu, çocukların makas kullanımı, resim çizme becerilerinin daha yüksek seviyede olduğu ve kullanılabilir hale geldi. Aynı zamanda çocukların değerler eğitimi konusunda ailelerini, öğretmenlerini taklit ederek daha kolay öğrenme sağlayabildikleri için 3-5 yaş kritik dönem olarak belirlenmiştir. Kısaca PISA sınavlarına baktığımızda PISA sınavları her 3 yılda bir 15 yaşındaki öğrenciler için yapılmakta. Okuma, matematik ve fen okuryazarlığını ölçen uluslararası bir değerlendirmedir. Problem durumum erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimi ve öğrencilerin kültürel özelliklerinin incelendiği PISA 2012 ve 2015 sonuçlarını inceleyen çalışmalar literatürde mevcut. Ancak son yapılan PISA 2018 sınavıyla alakalı erken çocukluk dönemini inceleyen herhangi bir veriye rastlanamadı. Bu sebeple çalışmamın amacı OECD ülkelerinin erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine 3-5 yaş aralığında katılım oranlarını belirleyerek bu eğitimin PISA 2018 sonuçları etkisi hakkında güncel verileri ortaya koymak. Çalışmam nitel araştırma yöntemlerinden doküman analizi yöntemiyle tamamlandı. Çalışmamın evren ve örneklemine bakacak olursak, amaçlama örnekleme yöntemlerinden biri olan ölçüt örnekleme yöntemiyle örneklem grubum seçildi. Evrenimiz 38 OECD ülkesi, ancak bizim verilerini kullandığımız 35 OECD ülkesi var. Çünkü Yunanistan, Kanada ve Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'nde yeteri kadar veriye ulaşılamadı. Veri toplamacı aracı olarak araştırmacı tarafından geliştirilen veri aktarım formu kullanıldı. Veri analiz yöntemi olarak ise betimsel analiz yöntemiyle elde edilen veriler incelendi. Kısaca bulgularıma bakmamız gerekirse, ilk araştırma sorumuz 3 yaş grubunda erken çocukluk dönemine eğitime katılım oranları nasıldır? Grafik incelendiğinde görüyoruz ki en yüksek katılım Fransa, İsrail ve Birleşik Krallık'ta %100 oranında bir eğitime katılım var. Bunu takiben Belçika, Danimarka ve İrlanda %98 oranında, İzlanda ve İspanya ise %97 oranında erken çocukluk eğitimine katılım gösteriyor. OECD ortalaması ise %77. Bu ortalamanın üzerinde kalan 24 ülke var ve %90 üzeri katılım gösteren de 13 ülke mevcut. Üzülerek en düşük katılım gösteren ülkeler 3 ülkemiz var. Biri Türkiye %10 oranında, diğeri Costa Rica %6, İsviçre'de %2 ile en düşük katılım gösteriyor. İkinci sorumuz 4 yaş grubunda erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım. 4 yaş grubuna baktığımızda Danimarka ve yine Fransa ve Birleşik Krallık'ta %100 oranında erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım oranı var. Bunu takiben İsrail %99 oranında eğitime katılıyor. Belçika ve İspanya'da %98 oranında eğitime katılmakta. En düşük iki ülkeden biri Türkiye. Türkiye %39 oranında 4 yaş eğitimine katılıyor. İsviçre %49 oranında erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılıyor. 4 yaş grubunda OECD ortalaması %89. Bu ortalamanın üzerinde kalan 35 ülkeden 24 ülke var. %90 üzeri eğitime katılan da 23 ülke var. 5 yaş grubunda erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım oranları nasıldır sorusuna baktığımızda ise yine Fransa'yı %100 oranıyla eğitime katılım gösterdiğini görüyoruz. Bunu takiben bu sefer Danimarka ve Hollanda %99 oranında ve 3. sırada da Avusturya, Belçika, Norveç, İspanya ve İsviçre yer alıyor. %98 oranında erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım gösteriyorlar. OECD ortalamamız bu yaş grubunda %83 ve %83'ün üstünde kalan 28 ülkemiz var. %90 üzeri eğitime katılımda 25 ülkede görüyoruz. En düşük katılım Avustralya, İrlanda ve Yeni Zelanda'da. Avustralya'da %21, İrlanda'da %5, Yeni Zelanda'da %4. Birleşik Krallık'ta %0 olduğunu görüyoruz. Burada bir istisnamız var. Birleşik Krallık erken çocukluk dönemi eğitiminin 4 yaşta son bulduğunu, 5 yaşa gelen her çocuğun zorunlu eğitim olarak ilk öğretime başlaması gerektiğini söylüyor. Fransa'ya baktığımızda ise 3 yaş grubunda da Fransa'nın %100 eğitime katılım gösterdiğini görüyoruz. İlk verileri elde ettiğimizde eğitimin zorunlu olduğunu düşünmüştük. Ancak Fransa'da bir ilk erken çocukluk eğitimi dönemi okullarda 1771 yılında başlıyor. Eğitimler kesinlikle zorunlu değil, ücretsiz olarak sağlanıyor. Ve Fransızlar bu eğitimi bir gelenek olarak gördükleri için %100 oranında eğitime katılım gösteriyor. 3-5 yaş grubu aralığındaki erken çocukluk dönemi eğitimine katılım oranları ve PISA fen okuryazarlığı sonuçları arasındaki ilişkiye baktığımızda genel olarak eğitime katılımla, katılım oranlarıyla PISA sonuçlarının doğru orantılı olduğunu görüyoruz. Ancak bazı istisnalarımız var. Bu istisnalar da öğrencilerin sosyoekonomik durum, genellikle sosyoekonomik durumlarından dolayı kaynaklandığını bulduk. Bu yaş grubu aralığındaki erken çocukluk dönemi eğitime katılım oranları ile matematik okuryazarlığı sınavını karşılaştırdığımızda yine verilerin doğru orantılı olduğunu, ancak yine birkaç istisnamız olduğunu görüyoruz. İsviçre, Türkiye ve Birleşik Krallık. Ve son olarak okuma sınavına baktığımızda yine sonuçlarımız genel olarak doğru orantılı, birkaç istisnamız var. Ve şurada gördüğümüz gibi İspanya 0 puan olarak gözüküyor. İspanya PISA sınavlarının okuma bölümüne katılmıyor, katılım göstermiyor. Kısaca önerilerime bakarsak, bir sonraki çalışmalar için OECD üyesi olmayan ülkelerin verileri incelenebilir ve üye ülkelerle karşılaştırmalar yapılabilir. 2018 sınavının üzerinden 3 yıl geçtiği için bu sene PISA 2021 sınavı yapılacak. Bu sınavdan sonra çalışma tekrar güncellenebilir. Aynı zamanda farklı değişkenlerin PISA sonuçları üzerindeki etkileri de incelenebilir. Sunumdaki kaynakçam bu şekilde. Beni dinlediğiniz için teşekkür ederim. Eğer sorunuz varsa alabilirim.
Damla Hocam, teşekkür ederiz katkınızdan için. Hocalarımdan soru ya da herhangi bir yorumda bulunmak isteyen varsa Damla Hocam için alabiliriz şu anda. Dilay Hocam teşekkürlerini sunuyor. Nihan
Ben
Hocam
teşekkür
da.
ederim hocam. Vaktinizi ayırdığınız için, dinlediğiniz için.
Evet, teşekkür ederiz. And the last presenter is Hanife Akgül. Okay, so the topic is examination of the attitudes of X, Y, and
Evet,
Z.
merhabalar.
Zeynep Hocam.
Hanife ama kızım Zoom'u yine değiştirmiş isim formatını. Ben de hani girerken geç kalmayayım diye bu isimle girdim. Kızımın ismi Zeynep Ada. İsmim Hanife Eda hocam, karışıklık olmasın.
Okay, I will just make you co-host. Share your screen. Okay, Hanife Hocam. Now you can share your screen. And Hanife Hocam's presentation's title is Examination of the Attitudes of X, Y, and Z Generation Individuals Regarding Gender Roles.
Benim de sunu dilim Türkçe olacak hocam.
Tamam hocam,
Bunu
buyurun.
belirteyim. Şimdi ekranımı yansıtıyorum. Hemen. Biraz bekleyin. Geldi mi acaba?
Share screen yaptınız mı hocam?
Yaptım ama bir daha deniyorum. Yeniledim.
Evet.
Tamam.
Şu an geliyor.
Bu sefer oldu. İlkinde gelmemişti. Hemen başa dönüyorum. Yalnız slaytım benim de evet şimdi oldu. Evet, benim bugünkü sunum X, Y, Z kuşağı bireylerinin rollerine ilişkin tutumlarının incelenmesi. Bundan önce kısaca kendimi tanıtmak istiyorum. Bilim dalında öğretim üyesi olarak görev yapmaktayım. Şimdi toplumsal cinsiyet dediğimizde eşitsizliğin etkileri tüm dünyada ve ülkemizde gözlemlenebilen ve son zamanlarda da daha çok üzerine düşünülen bir konu olarak karşımıza çıkmaktadır. Geçmişten günümüze tüm toplumlarda birey, biyolojik, cinsiyet özellikleri nedeniyle toplum tarafından oluşturulan sınırları belirlenmiş bir kalıp içerisinde doğuyor ne yazık ki. Erkek ve kadının davranışları, toplumdaki yeri, çalışma yaşamı, ev içi rolleri, görev ve sorumlulukları üzerine biyolojik cinsiyete atfedilen yargıların izleri gözlemlenmektedir. Toplumsal cinsiyet algısı bireyi sınırlandırmakla birlikte ayrımcılığa, eşitsizliğe ve şiddete sebep olabilmektedir. Bir de kuşaklara bakacak olursak kısaca X, Y, Z kuşakları, özellikle yaş gruplarını sınırlandırmak açısından X kuşağı dediğimiz kuşak 1965 ve 1979 yılları arasında doğan bireyleri kapsamaktadır. X kuşağı bireylerinin özellikleri toplumsal sorunlara duyarlı, mücadeleci, küresel düşünceye sahip, işlerine sadık fakat özel yaşantılar arasında dengeyi korumaya özen gösteren, otoriteye saygılı, kültürel çeşitliliğe hoşgörülü olmasının yanı sıra farklı yaşam biçimlerinde uyum gösteren yapıları vardır X kuşaklarının. Onları kendinden önceki kuşaklardan farklılaştıran en önemli özellik ise cinsiyet eşitliğini ve bağımsızlıklarına verdikleri önem olmuştur diyebiliriz. Y kuşağı ise 1980 ve 1999 yılları arasında doğan bireyleri kapsamaktadır. Y kuşağını diğer kuşaklardan ayıran en belirgin özellik teknolojiye olan bağımlılıkları ve teknolojiyle gerek iş yaşamında gerekse sosyal hayatta iç içe olmalıdır. Y kuşağının genel özelliklerine baktığımızda geçmişteki zorlukları yaşamadıkları için her şey her zaman böyleydi ve böyle olacağını zannettikleri görülmektedir. Otoriteye karşı saldırgan bir tutuma sahip olup hızlı ulaşıp çabuk tüketmeyi daha çok işlemektedirler. Özgürlükçü, sabırsız, narsist, kitlesel orandan ziyade bireyselliği tercih eden, özgüvenleri yüksek bireylerdir denilebilir Y kuşağına. En çok tartışılan Z kuşağı 2000 yılı ve daha sonrasında doğan bireyleri kapsamaktadır. Bu kuşağın özelliklerine baktığımızda ise genellikle işbirliğine yatkın, uluslararası fırsatları kovalayan, sadakat duyguları zayıf, yaratıcı ve amaç odaklı bireylerden oluşmaktadırlar. Kuşak üyelerinin siyasal, sosyal ve çalışma hayatında henüz çok fazla aktif bir rolü olmadığından bu grupla ilgili kaynak sayısı sınırlıdır diyebiliriz. Fakat internet çağında ve teknolojinin içinde gözlerini açan kristal nesil bilgisayar, akıllı telefon, tablet, cep telefonu, müzik çalar gibi yeni iletişim teknolojisini kullanarak birden fazla görevi hızlı ve aynı anda yerine getirebilmesiyle diğer kuşaklardan biraz daha farklılaşmaktadır diyebiliriz. Bu açıklamalar doğrultusunda araştırmamızın amacı X, Y, Z kuşağı bireylerinin toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumlarını karşılaştırmak, toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumda kuşaklar arasında bir farklılaşmanın olup olmadığını incelemektir diyebiliriz. Bu amaç kapsamında şu sorulara cevap aranacaktır. X, Y ve Z kuşağı bireylerinin eşitlikli cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumlar arasında anlamlı bir fark var mıdır? X, Y, Z kuşağı bireylerin kadın cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumlar arasında anlamlı bir fark var mıdır? X, Y, Z kuşağı bireylerinin evlilikte cinsiyet rolleri, geleneksel cinsiyet rolleri ve erkek cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumları arasında anlamlı bir fark var mıdır? Sorularına cevap aranacaktır. Araştırmada ilişkisel tarama modeli kullanılmıştır. Araştırmanın evreni Türkiye'nin çeşitli illerinde 2020-21 yılları arasında yaşayan yaşları 14 ile 56 yaş aralığında bulunan bireyler oluşturmaktadır. Örneklem ise araştırmaya gönüllü olarak katılmayı kabul eden X kuşağında yer alan 84 katılımcı, Y kuşağında yer alan 208 katılımcı ve Z kuşağında yer alan 151 toplamda 443 katılımcı oluşturmaktadır. Verilerin toplanması işlemi COVID-19 pandemisi sebebiyle internet ortamında Microsoft Forms aracılığıyla elde edilmiştir. Veriler kişisel bilgi formu ve toplumsal cinsiyet rolleri tutum ölçeği ile elde edilmiştir. Kişisel bilgi formu araştırmacılar tarafından hazırlanmış, demografik bilgilerden cinsiyet ve yaş bilgileri alınmıştır. Toplumsal cinsiyet rolleri tutum ölçeği ise toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin tutumları belirlemek amacıyla 2008 yılında Zeynoloğlu tarafından geliştirilmiş bir ölçektir. Toplam 38 maddeden oluşan toplumsal cinsiyet rolleri tutum ölçeği 1 ve 5 arası puanlanan Likert tipi bir ölçektir. 4 alt boyuttan oluşmaktadır ve toplam puan bize vermektedir diyebiliriz. Ölçekten alınabilecek en yüksek puan 190, en düşük puan ise 38 olarak hesaplanmıştır. Ölçek puanları arttıkça bireylerin toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin eşitlikçi tutumuna sahip olduğu, puan düştükçe toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin geleneksel tutuma sahip oldukları belirlenmektedir. Verilerin analizinde paket program kullanılarak X, Y, Z kuşakları arasında farklılığın olup olmadığını test etmek amacıyla parametrik testlerden varyans analizi yani ANOVA kullanılmıştır. Yine aynı şekilde X, Y, Z kuşakları arasında ölçeğin alt boyutları arasında da farklılık olup olmadığına bakılmıştır. Bulgularımıza geçecek olursak katılımcıların kuşa göre dağılan X kuşağının %18, Y kuşağının %46, kuşağının oldu. Toplumsal cinsiyet ölçeğinden orta arasında çok yakın olduğu şu anda biliyor. Ölçeklerin yüksek olduğu maksimum 190, Z kuşağında ise minimum 44 puan, maksimum 190 puan. Biraz daha Z kuşağı uçlara hareket etmeyi öğrenmişler diyebiliriz. Evet, bulgulara bakacak olursak yapılan ANOVA testinde X, Y, Z kuşağının tek yönlü varyans analizi testinin sonucuna bakacak olursak tablo incelendiğinde X, Y, Z kuşağı bireylerinin toplumsal cinsiyet rolleri, tutum ölçü, puan ortalamaları istatistiksel olarak anlamlı bulunmuştur. Ortalamalar arası farkın hangi yönde olduğunun belirlenmesi için yapılan şiddet testinde X, Y kuşağı birey, Y ve Z kuşağı lehine anlamlı fark saptanmıştır. Bu durum Y ve Z kuşağı bireylerinin X kuşağı bireylerine göre toplumsal cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin daha eşitlikçi tutuma sahip olduğunu ortaya koymaktadır. Ölçeğin alt boyutlarında ise alt boyutlar kadın cinsiyet rolü, evlilikte cinsiyet rolü, geleneksel cinsiyet rolü ve erkek cinsiyet rolü olarak bakılan alt boyutlarında ise X kuşağı ile Y ve Z kuşağı arasında bütün alt boyutlarda istatistiksel olarak anlamlı fark bulunmuş. Bu fark Y ve Z kuşağı lehindedir denilebilir. Yani bu durum Y ve Z kuşağı bireylerinin X kuşağı bireylere göre cinsiyet rollerine ilişkin bütün alt boyutlarda eşitlikçi tutuma sahip olduğunu göstermektedir. Y ve Z kuşağı arasında toplamda ve alt boyutlarda anlamlı bir farka rastlanmamıştır. Anlamlı fark X ve Y, Z kuşağı arasındadır denilebilir. Yapılan çalışmada 1964-79 aralığında doğan bireyleri kapsayan X kuşağı katılımcılarının 1980-1999 aralığında doğan Y ve 2000 sonrasında doğan Z kuşağı katılımcılarına göre daha geleneksel tutumlara sahip oldukları sonucu çıkarılabilir. Bununla birlikte kuşakların ölçekten alınan toplam puan ortalamalarına göre eşitlikçi tutumlara sahip oldukları yorumu da yapılabilir. Her ne kadar X, Y, Z kuşakları arasında anlamlı fark olduğu söylense bile X kuşağının ortalaması da ölçekten aldıkları ortalama puan yüksek olduğu için aslında bütün kuşakların eşitlikçi tutuma sahip oldukları söylenebilir. Bu araştırma sonucunda yapılacak yeni araştırmalar için şöyle neler söylenebilir bakacak olursak. Kuşak değişkenliğiyle birlikte diğer sosyodemografik özelliklerin ve bunun yanında sosyoekonomik özelliklerin de incelenmesi araştırmanın kapsamını artıracaktır. Yapılacak yeni araştırmalarda X, Y, Z kuşaklarının toplumsal cinsiyet rolleri çerçevesinde aile içi yaşamı algılama biçimleri ve toplumsal cinsiyet kapsamında mesleklere ilişkin bakış açıları arasındaki ilişki ortaya konulabilir. Yapılacak yeni çalışmalarda X, Y, Z kuşağında yer alan bireylerin toplumsal cinsiyet rollerini, edinim kaynaklarını belirlemeye yönelik çalışmalarda olabilir. Ayrıca araştırmaya ayrılan zamanın sınırlı olması ve pandemi şartlarının getirdiği olumsuz etkileri veri toplama sürecini zorlaştırmış olup katılımcı sayısının beklenilenden düşük olmasına neden olmuştur. Katılımcı sayısının artırılması ve araştırmanın daha geniş bir zaman dilimine ele alınması daha genellenebilir sonuçlara varılmasını sağlayacaktır. Ve son olarak da bu çalışmanın Türkiye'nin 7 ayrı bölgesinde eşit katılımcı sayılarıyla yapılması, toplumsal cinsiyet rolüne ilişkin bölgesel farklılıkların saptanmasına ve katılımcı oranlarının daha net karşılaştırılmasına katkı sağlayacaktır diyerek sunumuma son veriyorum. Biraz dakika sınırından dolayı
Yok
hızlı
hocam.
sunmuş olabilirim.
Teşekkür ederiz katkılarınızdan ötürü. Evet, biraz süremiz kısıtlı olduğu için
evet.
biraz yorduk hocam. Teşekkür ederiz. Ekran paylaşımını kapatabilirsiniz isterseniz hocam.
Hemen, evet, tamam.
Ekran hala sizin ekranınızda hocam.
Hala mı? Peki, kapattım ama.
Tamam hocam, biz dinleyicilerimize soralım. Size herhangi bir sorusu, yorumu olan varsa alalım.
Peki, bekliyorum.
Evet, hocalarımız size teşekkürlerini belirtiyorlar. Biz de teşekkür ederiz hocam.
Teşekkür ederim. Ben teşekkür ediyorum Eda hocam.
Çok sağ olun. Evet değerli katılımcılar, bu session'ımızın sonuna geldik. İkinci session'ımız saat 2'de olacaktır. O zaman tekrar görüşmek üzere.
Eda'cığım şimdi girdim de gördün değil mi?
Oğlum katil. Seni bir görsünler diye. Bunlar Karaoğlu. Karşı selam söyle. Başka kim var? Semin Kazanoğlu'na bir bas oraya selam. Yok o ne değil. Hadice'ye de Sezgi'ye de benim hepsine selamımı söylesene ya. Dur oğlum dur. Yaz hepinize selam Ankara'dan, yağmurlu havadan. Merak etmeyin, iyileşiyorum. Herkes beni merak ediyor. Ben cevap veremiyorum. Cümleleri doğru kuruyor. Tamam bak. Yazdın mı ben diyeyim? Yazdım da senin benim aslında benim sen de yaz. Arif sadece
Merhaba Pınar Hanım. Pınar Hanım, sesim geliyor mu?
Merhaba hocam.
Siz
Beni
host
duyabiliyor
ol-
musunuz?
Evet hocam, siz host olmuşsunuz galiba değil mi hocam?
Evet hocam, ben duyabiliyorum sizi. Sesiniz kesik geldi ama siz duyabiliyor musunuz beni?
Evet duyuyorum hocam. Siz hostunuz değil mi hocam kongrede?
Evet hocam. Evet hocam. Birazdan başlatacağım hocam.
Tamam hocam. Ben de hocam biraz sonra YouTube kaydını ben başlattım ama YouTube şu an devam ediyormuş ya. YouTube kaydını YouTube kaydını bir durdur. Bana host yetkisi verir misiniz hocam? Bana bir host yetkisi ver hocam.
Şu an siz zaten co-host olarak görünüyorsunuz hocam.
Hocam
Şu an bir saniye. Şu an oldu mu? Şu an olması lazım.
Evet host oldu. Tamam hocam. Teşekkür